Picture the horrifying reality of a 13-year-old boy with autism kidnapped from his own neighborhood, driven over 300 miles away, and abandoned in an unfamiliar city. The reason? He simply walked alone. The culprit? A domineering homeowners association president, Victoria Harper, who deemed him a threat, using ambiguous neighborhood rules to justify an act of unimaginable cruelty. What Victoria didn't know, however, was that the boy's father, William Harris, was the district attorney of Cypress County, Texas, a man with the power and drive to ensure not only his son's return, but to dismantle the very system that allowed such an act to occur. This is a story filled with unexpected twists, intense retribution, and justice that delivers a blow no one saw coming. No parent should ever receive a call in the dead of morning, informing them that their child, vulnerable, young, and autistic, has been found wandering far from home. Yet, this was the nightmare that William Harris faced, and no legal shield could prepare him for what was to come. His life, spent defending the innocent and pursuing justice for others, was now on the line in a way he never expected, fighting for his own son. It was a quiet morning when William's phone rang, its screen showing an unfamiliar number from Louisiana. Likely a spam call, he thought at first, but something in his gut urged him to answer. What he heard next made his heart stop. "Mr. Harris, we have your son, Lucas," the voice on the other end said. "He's in Baton Rouge. He was taken from your neighborhood in Texas. They said he wasn't allowed to walk alone." The words hit him like a fist. Baton Rouge, over 300 miles from his home. This was the last thing William expected to hear when he kissed his son goodnight the previous evening. His mind scrambled for answers. Lucas had always been careful and followed the familiar paths that were safe and comfortable to him. But now he was stranded, confused, and frightened. The memory of the last time he saw Lucas flashed in his mind. It was 8:15 p.m., and Lucas had insisted on taking his evening walk. "I need to hear the wind," he'd said, his favorite phrase when seeking comfort in nature's sounds. William had promised him he'd be back before dark. But that was before all of this. When William and his wife, Sarah, arrived at the Baton Rouge shelter, they rushed through the doors, barely acknowledging the staff. Desperation had taken over. "Where is Lucas?" William demanded, his voice hoarse. A counselor led them down a sterile hallway, the smell of antiseptic heavy in the air. William barely registered the words about feeding Lucas a sandwich, his mind fixed on only one thing, getting to his son. And there he was. Lucas sat in a stiff chair, knees pulled to his chest, looking every bit the victim of a traumatic experience. His clothes were disheveled, his hair tangled, his face pale with exhaustion. When he saw his parents, he didn't speak at first. His eyes were wide, searching for something familiar in the chaos. Then, like a reflex, he shot out of his seat, crashing into William's arms, then Sarah's, and then back to his father, clutching him tightly. "I didn't break any rules," Lucas muttered, his voice barely a whisper. His hands were trembling as they gripped William's shirt, trying to find some sort of safety in the warmth of his embrace. "We were just walking," Lucas continued, "but they said I couldn't walk alone, that I was causing trouble." His words came out in a stilted manner, as if repeating lines he had been forced to memorize. William's blood ran cold when Lucas added, "They put a sack over my head. I couldn't see, I couldn't breathe. They said I was a risk." As Lucas's words sank in, William saw the angry red marks around his son's wrists, left by zip ties. His heart clenched with rage. This wasn't a mistake. This was something far more calculated. His son wasn't just a risk in their eyes. He was a target. Determined, William turned to Sarah, her face a mask of sorrow, and said coldly, "They've made a mistake. Now they'll pay." As a district attorney, William had spent years studying the law, understanding its nuances. He knew the system better than anyone. Now, he was about to make it work for him. He didn't wait. He took action immediately. Later that night, in the solitude of his home office, he sifted through security footage from the gated community where his son had been taken. The images were damning. Lucas had been walking casually when the HOA security officer, a man named Travis Baldwin, grabbed him without warning. The footage showed Baldwin, fired from his previous job for misconduct, dragging Lucas into an unmarked van. This wasn't a case of mistaken identity. It was an abduction. A deeper dive into the HOA's bylaws revealed something even more chilling. A clause in the community's rulebook allowed for the temporary removal of anyone deemed a concern for the community's safety. The note in the margin made William's blood boil. Unsupervised roaming equals a potential threat. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It was an ongoing practice, part of a systemic problem. The following day, William wasted no time. He contacted local law enforcement and federal agents specializing in human trafficking. By noon, Crestwood Pines was surrounded by black SUVs and law enforcement vans. Inside the HOA office, chaos erupted as agents seized evidence of years of surveillance and illegal activity. Files on local children were found, with labels like loiter and threat attached to their names. William knew this wasn't just a case of overzealous security. It was a coordinated effort to target vulnerable kids. In the days that followed, the story made national headlines. Protests broke out, demanding accountability for what had been done to Lucas. Victoria Harper, the HOA president, took to the cameras, trying to defend her actions. This child's behavior raised concerns. He didn't respond when spoken to, so he acted in accordance with protocol, she said, her voice calm and unrepentant. But the public wasn't buying it. The outrage was palpable, especially from parents of children with autism. William's determination only grew stronger. He filed charges against Harper, Baldwin, and the HOA, charging them with kidnapping, child endangerment, and conspiracy. He took the case himself, fighting not just as a district attorney, but as a father. The trial was intense, with witnesses testifying about years of surveillance and illegal activities. In the end, the jury found the defendants guilty. Baldwin received a lengthy sentence, while Harper was sentenced to prison as well. The HOA was dissolved, and the bylaws were nullified. Outside the courthouse, William stood with Lucas. "Do you think they can hurt you again?" he asked his son. Lucas shook his head, a small smile on his face. "No, they can't hurt me anymore." And just like that, the real victory was won. Lucas had his peace restored. The law had been a weapon for justice, and the twisted system that tried to break him had been shattered. The story of Lucas Harris is not just one of a father's fierce love, but also a stark reminder of the power dynamics that can lurk behind seemingly innocuous rules. It is a tale of how authority, when unchecked, can be twisted to justify the most inhumane actions, and how the courage to fight back can bring down those who think they are untouchable. Through William's relentless pursuit of justice, he not only reclaimed his son, but exposed a system that had quietly preyed on vulnerable children for far too long. In a world where power is often misused, the Harris family's fight is a beacon of hope, a reminder that no one is above the law, no matter how seemingly small or insular their realm of control may be. It is a testament to the strength of family bonds and the lengths a parent will go to when their child is at risk. But it's also a call to action, urging communities everywhere to be vigilant about the systems they allow to govern them. When we turn a blind eye to the actions of those in charge, we risk empowering the very forces that seek to exploit the vulnerable. As the world watched the collapse of the corrupt HOA, it wasn't just a legal victory. It was a triumph of justice over tyranny, of right over wrong. Lucas, once a victim, is now a symbol of resilience and strength in the face of adversity. The lessons from his ordeal resonate beyond the courtroom. No matter the size of the enemy or how insurmountable the odds, standing up for what's right always holds power. For Lucas, with his peace restored, the trees will always whisper their secrets, a quiet reminder that he is free to walk his path.